Why most people are ambitious but lazy and stay poor. He had 2 alarms set for 5 a.m. He silenced both before the second one finished ringing. That was Marcus, 29 years old, a stack of half-read self-help books on his nightstand, a notes app full of business ideas he'd never started, and a drawer stuffed with motivational quotes he'd saved but never lived. From the outside, Marcus looked like a man on the edge of greatness. From the inside, he was a man standing at the edge of a diving board every single day and never jumping. He wanted more. God, did he want more? A better apartment, a business of his own, financial freedom, that phrase he'd heard in 100 YouTube videos while lying in bed at noon. The ambition was real. The fire was real. But every morning, the fire met the same cold water. Comfort, and comfort always won. Here's what nobody talks about when they discuss ambition. They talk about the dream, they talk about the destination, but they never talk about the gap, that quiet, deadly space between wanting and doing. That gap has a name. It's not laziness, not exactly. It's something more dangerous. It's the illusion of motion. Marcus felt busy. He consumed content about success 12 hours a day. He thought about his goals constantly. He felt in some deep part of himself that he was working towards something. He wasn't. He was rehearsing. And rehearsal, no matter how long you do it, never builds anything real. This is where the story of Marcus intersects with a truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding. One evening, Marcus's uncle, a quiet man named Raymond, who'd spent 30 years building a small but profitable construction business from nothing, sat across from him at a family dinner. Raymond had rough hands, an old truck, and enough savings to retire comfortably. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but something about his stillness commanded respect. "You still working on that business idea?" Raymond asked, cutting into his food without looking up. Marcus straightened. "Yeah, I'm still researching, figuring out the right time to launch." Raymond set down his fork. He looked at Marcus the way a doctor looks at an X-ray, quietly, clinically, without judgment, but without illusion either. "The right time," he repeated slowly. "How long have you been researching?" Silence. 2 years, Marcus finally said. Raymond nodded. He didn't say, "That's too long," or "What are you waiting for?" He said something far more unsettling. He said, "You know what the difference is between the people who make it and the people who don't? The ones who make it get tired of thinking about it. They get so sick of dreaming the same dream that starting feels like relief. The ones who don't make it, they learn to love the dream more than the result. The dream feels safe. The dream never fails." Marcus didn't sleep well that night because Raymond had just described him perfectly. Here's the psychological trap that ambition sets for people like Marcus, like maybe you. When you're genuinely intelligent and genuinely driven, your mind can simulate success with stunning clarity. You can feel what it would be like to win. That feeling, that mental preview of the victory, releases just enough satisfaction to temporarily quiet the hunger, enough to let you hit snooze, enough to let you say tomorrow, enough to make the gap feel smaller than it is. But the gap doesn't close by feeling. It closes by bleeding. The next morning, something shifted in Marcus. He didn't wake up transformed. He didn't suddenly have discipline forged from steel. He woke up the same man, but with Raymond's words still echoing. And for the first time in 2 years, the dream felt less like a destination and more like a debt he owed himself. He opened his Notes app, not to add another idea, to pick one, just one, and start. The action was small, almost embarrassingly small. He sent 3 emails, researched one supplier, wrote a 1-page outline, done in 90 minutes. But here's what that 90 minutes did that 2 years of thinking never could. It made the business real, not a fantasy, a thing that existed partially in the actual world. That's the secret that ambitious but inactive people never discover. The first action doesn't need to be big, it needs to be real. Because reality compounds, dreams don't. 6 months later, Marcus had a side income, not enough to quit his job, but enough to prove the dream was possible. Enough to silence the voice that had whispered for years that he just wasn't built for more. The alarm still went off at 5 a.m. Now he got up. Not because he'd become a different person, but because he'd finally understood something Raymond knew after 30 years of rough hands and early mornings. The gap between ambition and results isn't talent, it isn't luck, it isn't even time. It's the willingness to be bad at something long enough to get good at it. You already have the ambition. That's not your problem. Your problem is that you've been treating the dream like a destination you can arrive at by thinking hard enough. You can't. You drive there, one uncomfortable mile at a time, in the dark, before the world wakes up. The question isn't whether you want it. The question is, what are you willing to do today, not someday, not when the timing is right, not when you feel ready, today, while you're still afraid, still uncertain, still imperfect. Because the people who change their lives aren't the ones who waited until they weren't afraid. They're the ones who moved anyway.